In an open sunny field, the sounds of a fighter are heard coming from a girl in a dungeon. The sounds wake up our protagonist from his nap, and while still half asleep, he wonders why he is hearing video game sounds at all. Right in front of his face, a girl is standing there. While wondering if the MC is a human, she comes to the conclusion that it must be a human-shaped piece of meat and decides to cut it up for her dinner. We will just ignore her willingness to eat human-shaped meat, but when MC hears that she is about to dice him up, he jumps up immediately to save his own life. The girl jumps back and is astonished that the drop was, in fact, actually a human, but the guy is more annoyed that she didn't even bother to check beforehand and immediately went for the meal prep. But the girl is still confused that a human was a slime drop. She exclaims that normal slime will only drop bean sprouts, but finding a human in one is unprecedented. The guy hears all this and goes, "Hold up, wait a minute, is this BH crazy?" But then she looks at him like he is the crazy one for not knowing that bean sprouts come from slimes. I mean, come on, this was elementary school stuff. She decides that it's not worth explaining things to him and just goes to fight a slime so that she can prove that bean sprouts come from them. Luckily, a slime shows up just then, and she engages it in battle. She eventually smashes the slime into a puddle with her giant hammer, and bean sprouts are indeed dropped. Now the guy looks like the stupid one here. He begins to have a mental crisis. What kind of crazy world is he in right now? He asks the girl if this is really how bean sprouts are made, and she looks at him like he is stupid again and tells him that everything comes from monster drops. Everything from your food to your equipment is gotten from monster drops. That's just common knowledge. She then proceeds to call him an idiot. The guy follows her as she's walking through the dungeon, and asks her if they are still in Japan, but she has never heard of the word, let alone the place. He then asks if they are at least still on Earth, but she also has never heard of Earth. They continue walking, and the girl comes across another slime, which she squishes with her hammer again. The guy asks why she's only killing slimes. She answers that it is because the dungeon they are in is level 1 and only spawns slimes. He then asks why she doesn't go after the higher level stuff, and she admits to being a noob. She says that if one trains hard, they might be able to move up a level and go to level 2. She then shows him a large board on the wall, which is called the status board. She presses her hand against the crystal, and the board shows her status, which looks a lot like my report card. The guy analyzes her stats and concludes that she must be going for a power type build. He then looks back to the screen and notices that there is a second page to the status. The girl then shows him the next page, which contains the drop status. This is basically the luck stat in gacha games and dictates what drop you'll get when you kill a monster. After learning all of this, he now wants to try checking his status on the board, and when he puts his hand on the crystal, he has a status that would immediately evict him from any Asian family. With those stats, the only level he is ever going to get is level 1. He then tracks his drop status and is afraid to look at the screen. The girl looks at the screen for him and tells him that his drop stats are really bad too, but when he looks up, he sees that all his drop stats are S rank. They have different opinions on what S means. The girl thinks that S is below F, so it must be really low, but the guy thinks that S is meant to be high, so they put it to the test. He looks around for a weapon so they can kill something but doesn't find anything, so the girl offers him her hammer, but it proves to be too much. Wait for a guy's arms. She then pulls out a bamboo spear, and this one should work. Another slime approaches, and the guy sets about trying to kill it, but the slime is dodging his attacks at first. But then it gets stabbed and melts into a puddle. It drops a lot of bean sprouts as his drop, and the girl is surprised. In the 2 years she has been at this dungeon, she has never seen so many drops at once. This proves that S is definitely above A in the ranking system. The guy's stomach begins to growl, and the girl suggests that they eat together. He tries the bean sprouts that she prepared, and he loves them so much that he starts crying. It has been so long since he was last able to eat a warm meal with another person. He worked himself to the hospital on Earth, then when he finally got out, he worked even more until he ended up here as a slime drop. He's thinking about all the time he wasted and how stupid it was for him to work himself to death, but then the girl hugs him out of nowhere. Even though she has no idea what he's talking about, she tells him that he will surely get rewarded for all the time he put into work eventually. He thanks the girl for her encouragement and asks her if there is anywhere to sleep in this world. She tells him that there is a village outside the dungeon where he can find some lodging, and tells him to hurry since she's going to sleep soon. He asks her if she's actually going to sleep in the dungeon, and she explains that she has terrible drops, so she can't afford to live in an apartment, even though it is her dream to be able to live in one. She wakes up, farms slimes, eats bean sprouts, and goes to sleep. It's not much, but honest work. She offers him her bamboo spear to help him with his hunting. He promises to return the spear to her later. He asks for her name, and she tells him that it is Emily Brown, and he tells her that his name is Cedarota, but she has a hard time pronouncing it. Later, they are in the village, and he is finally starting to understand this world's economy. The currency of the world is pilos, and a pile of bean sprouts will get you 200 pilos, but a room will cost you 2,000 pilos per night, and some foods 500 pilos. Now that he knows the prices of the things that he wants, he sets about murdering slime to make his money. After a few days, he brings Emily to an apartment in the village. He shows her the apartment, and she is amazed that he was able to afford this in only 3 days of work. It cost him 20,000 a month, and she's even more amazed. But then Cedarota hands her the keys to the apartment and tells her that she can live here. She doesn't want to accept it, but Cedarota insists, and he even states they will pay for all the rent for her. This is his way of thanking her for the meal she shared with him. He tries to leave, but Emily pulls him back and tells him that he should stay here. It's clearly overworking himself, and she can make some more soup for him. She'll stay by his side and make soup for him whenever he wants, so he should live with her. The next day, Cedarota goes to the guild to exchange some of the bean sprouts that he has collected with one of the attendants, Erza. She weighs out his bean sprouts, and his total comes out to 1,900, but she rounds it up to 2,000 for him since he always brings so much. Even with his amazing drop rates, bean sprouts don't fetch you that much money. So if he wants to try going to a level 2 dungeon where the slimes drop carrots, but Erza tells him about a new dungeon that popped up recently. It's called Nihonium, and the Neptune group is investigating what is dropped there. He's about to leave the line when Erza suddenly invites him to go to a local bar later. It has been 4 days, and he is already pulling baddies, but Cedarota already has plans for the night, so he has to decline the offer. When he gets home, he waits outside the door for a second since he doesn't know what to say when he enters. He finally opens the door and is greeted by Emily. And with a shot of them, the height difference kinda makes me want to call the FBI. Cedarota realizes that the house is spotless. Emily has cleaned it to the finest degree, and she just did it since she was happy to have a house. She offers him a hot towel and some green tea to relax a little. Cedarota tells her to rest too, but she's so excited to do stuff around the house that she can't sit still and do nothing. Cedarota then brings up the new dungeon, and Emily states that she's heard about it, but apparently, it doesn't drop anything at all. In a world where everything is gotten from monster drops, a dungeon that doesn't drop anything is really unusual. So much so that he wants to investigate it. He's walking through the new dungeon later and gets jumped by a skeleton. And he still has trash fighting stats. When he tries to stab the skeleton, the spear goes straight through it, so he is definitely going to lose this fight. But luckily, a pillar falls straight onto the skeleton, crushing it underneath. The skeleton is still alive but has been pinned to the ground, allowing Cedarota to strike it repeatedly until it dies. Afterward, a drop comes out, and Cedarota picks up a seed. When he finally picks up the seed, it is immediately absorbed, and he hears a sound that tells him that his health stat has increased. This is an amazing discovery, and he immediately goes to call Emily so that they can check his status together. When they check, they find that his status has definitely risen. It went from F to C, which is an amazing jump in stat points. They set out to start farming the skeletons and discover a few things. When Emily kills a skeleton, nothing is dropped thanks to her terrible drop rates. And if she tries to touch Cedarota's drop, her hand just goes straight through it as if nothing were there. The fact that there is a dungeon that only he can get drops in and the drops can only be touched by him is something that really shouldn't exist in the world. It could easily throw the world into chaos, but there it is. Cedarota is now the only person that is able to raise his stats without leveling up at all. And after a few days, he has already gotten his health stat all the way up to S rank, and he plans to go to the level 2 dungeon later to test out how much stronger he has gotten. Emily is a little worried about Ryota's health since he tends to be a little reckless, and she asks him to at least come home at night. The next day, he heads into the level 2 dungeon, and when he faces a sleepy slime, he hits it a lot. But thanks to his health being at S, he doesn't take much damage and is able to finish off the slime. The slime then drops a huge carrot. Before he can pick up his prize, some other adventurers kill another slime and get a smaller carrot. They then mock him for being level 1 and walk away. Ryota turns around and notices a bunny girl standing behind him. She then says she hates level 1 people, chops him on the head, and then leaves. Yeah, this world is pretty strange. Later, Ryota was showing Emily how much he made today, and he got 1,000 for the carrots. But then there is a knock at the door, and when he checks, it's the same bunny girl who then chops him on the head and states that she loves him. Yep, really strange. This was the end of the first part. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.